Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I have one replay for you in the British Tier 8 Tech Tree tank destroyer, the Charioteer, which is one of my favourite tank destroyers in the World War II game mode. I loved grinding this tank when I was grinding towards the FV 4005 Stage 2, and I do pick it up occasionally to play it, like I have done about 4 or 5 days ago, and this game is from my session when I last played. The reason for me only including one replay in this tank is because it's more about the gameplay and what happens in the gameplay than about the tank itself, although I will talk to you about the Charioteer a little bit throughout the video. But what do I mean when I say that this video is about the gameplay? Well, we are bottom tier in the Charioteer in this video, and I'm going to be going for my third mark of excellence in this tank any day now, whenever I decide to have a few more sessions playing the game. We had a good result, and I looked back over and I think there are some good talking points in this gameplay to demonstrate how I managed to have a good impact as a bottom tier tank, and it's kind of things that you can implement regardless of what tier you're in or what tank you are in, apart from SPGs, artillery of course, but you can implement in other gameplays, and hopefully some of the tips will be able to help maybe some of the newer players or players that have come back into the game to get the most out of their bottom tier matchups, but also to help them read the minimap better and make smarter plays. So here in the Charioteer, which has a very dangerous 105mm gun, great penetration, 10 degrees of gun depression and fantastic concealment with nice mobility, we've pushed forward into a position here in A5 on Nomonhan towards the north of this map, and we're just trying to get a little bit of vision out to start this map towards campers that like to camp on the 1 and 2 line on the enemy team, and we're also going to try and get shots in where possible, just chunking the opponents down bit by bit. I've come here because we do have a little bit of support in the form of the Turan and the Kampfpanzer 50T, but now I've seen on the minimap that quite a few targets were spotted along the 1 and 2 line, and if they did decide to push us in that location all as one, we would be surrounded and taken out very quickly. So I've made the decision, and so has the Turan, to fall back a couple of ridge lines. It means that our concealment will be more useful, and it means that if the enemies have to advance, they have to advance over this open ground, which means we have more opportunity to get shots on them and to create crossfire on the enemy, which is what you want to do in all of your games. We've fallen back here with the Turan to this ridge line. When we fire here, we are most likely not going to get spotted unless some of the enemies advance through this open field, and we're just going to put the great gun to work that we have here. Any gun will work when you are playing this kind of gameplay, but obviously it helps if you do have a nice gun with good aim time and good accuracy like the Charioteer, but the principles are the same for every game that I play in. In terms of when I know or when do I think I'm going to get spotted, well, on the minimap in the bottom right hand corner you can see there is a dotted line around my tank. That is my still detectability range, or my detectability range if you will. I'm always trying to keep the target that I'm firing in a stealthy tank around that dotted line, slightly before or slightly after it, and the black line which the view range cone goes to is my view range, and any tank in between my still detectability range and my view range cone I'm going to be able to fire at, and pretty much certain that I'm not going to get spotted unless there is a tank around me that hasn't been detected yet. So that's something to try and keep your tank in the game, keep your hit points in the game, and something definitely to think about, and that's why I prefer the larger mini-map. It just means that I can make smarter plays like falling back and deciding when I can fire and when I can't fire. What we're doing here with this 257 is listening out for when he's fired. So he fired at the Turan, who put a massive shell into him. It means that we could go around with pretty much 100% safety, not get a shell taken into us, and it means that we managed to get 2 rounds into that tier 9 tank, so a tier above this tank, and take him out of the game with, I believe, a very nice ammo rack. And as you can see, just by chipping away at the opponents, making correct plays, we've still got all of our hit points intact, and we've picked up nearly 3.6k damage. I used the third person's kind of free cam there to peek around the rock at that T100 LT, noticed he was facing with his rear towards me, which allowed me to get around there, and by the time he knew I was there, I was able to take him out. And I prioritised the T100 LT because it's a light tank with great mobility, good vision, and it does have the mobility to be a nuisance at the end of the game and create vision for the enemies as they cross this open field. And what I'm talking about now is the crossfire that we are creating with the Terran on this IS-7. So the Terran, which as you can see is to my right now as we are escaping, was facing that IS-7 frontally, which meant that the IS-7 would logically have its side and rear armour towards me. It would have given me a nice chance to get a side shot into him, but he did manage to find a pretty low profile ridge to hide in, and I did get detected on that ridge. So I've fallen back a little bit further, see if I can bait a few of these tanks over this ridgeline into the path of the Terran. I'm utilising my tier 10 tanks where possible to try and get maybe a little bit of assistance for myself, but also to bait the enemy into a little bit of stupidity and hopefully get them taken out of the game. So what was my ultimate goal in going to my initial starting position and doing all of what I have spoken about throughout this video? Well, the original starting location was just to get a good feel of the battle, a pretty safe location where I could fire with what I felt was pretty safe kind of distances, which would allow me to fall back if I got spotted and also fall back if I felt like the position was not safe anymore. And it also would allow me to get a little bit of vision for myself and get a good lay of the land and maybe some early damage. Then we have fallen back using the minimap and the kind of guessing game of whether the enemies would come over. We noticed there was a massive bit of open ground for them to cover, so we've fallen back to this ridge line, which means that if they did have to come over this open ground, there's a high likelihood they would get taken out in the open ground, or it would be very dangerous for them to do so anyway. And whilst we're in this position, we're trying to create crossfire with this Terran. We've seen that the E3 there has fired, which means that we can come up behind this E3, and as a non-turreted tank destroyer, we are able just to sit behind him and get our final remaining couple of shells into this E3 and take out a very dangerous tier 10 tank destroyer there. And in terms of the gameplay, what I was trying to show you was that by holding this position, we didn't have to go with the current YOLO meta of everyone going down one flank, lemming training together. We could hold a position with a little bit of support, and it meant that we kept our hit points and our tank in the game for long enough to have a good damage game. We pick up a profit with a few kills. We get the ace tanker there in the Charioteer, finish MVP in a bottom tier game with 1981 base experience points and 4.8k damage in a tier 8 tank destroyer in a tier 10 battle. So there was quite a lot to talk about there in this gameplay. I hope that I made it, or I articulated it as good as possible. I tried to demonstrate how you can have an impact when you are bottom tier in a World War II game, and this can apply as a kind of bottom era in Cold War. I tried to explain how to look at the minimap, try and play a little bit smarter. Of course, I don't do it every single time. I make mistakes very often as well, but ever so slightly, picking up these little tips will improve your win rate by that % here and there and make you a better player. We used the opportunity to fall back, create crossfires on our opponents. We used the minimap, and I highly recommend the larger minimap, especially if you are a newer or returning player, or maybe if you are a little bit not very confident in games where you are bottom tier. And we are trying to beat this current YOLO meta of having to go with the lemming train. We can defend the base, but we can also try and defend the base with purpose rather than just sitting back and waiting for them all to come and surround you. For those of you that want to know my commander and equipment setup for the Charioteer in this gameplay that I've played, in terms of my equipment, I ran advanced concealment, advanced optics and advanced loader. And in terms of my commander skills, I run 6th sense, born leader, rapid loading, steady aim, rapid aim, snapshot, camouflage expertise, muffled shot, and situational awareness. And for those are wondering what that does to the Charioteer's base stats, well, it improves your view range from 370 to 473 meters, and your steel concealment rating goes down from 324 to 234 meters, meaning you are able to spot tanks for yourself and also stay hidden. And in terms of the gun on the Charioteer, it means you now have a 7.37 second reload, 2.12 second aim time, a great accuracy of 0.28, and your DPM goes from 2,300 to 3,179, and your turret traverse also improves to 24.34 degrees a second, because it is a little bit slow. But of course, that's just for the Charioteer. This gameplay and the tips that I was given were hopefully demonstrating what you can do in any kind of tank to try and play a little bit smarter. So I hope that it's helped some of you out. Let me know in the comments if it has, or if you'd prefer a different format. Thank you all so much for your support, and until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.